Well, the new version of You, the Owner's Manual has really three main purposes why we updated it. One was to make it affordable, so we have it in paperback. The second, and probably the most important, is there was a lot of new medical information out, and we wanted to include it. And the third is we use technology to help explain things. So you should really be the world's expert on your body, and we wanted to make that even easier. So we have a lot of fun things and cartoons that explain things, but we actually put on there, like a QR code, a code where you take your smartphone, you take a picture of it, or your iPod or iPad or your tablet, take a picture of that, and up pops a video of me trying to explain something, or an extra quiz, or some fun thing that you get to do to be even more of the world expert on your own body. Well, there are 5 really easy things. Some people wouldn't say they're easy, but I think they're relatively easy, that each of us can do that make a huge difference. How big a difference? Well, if you do these 5 things, you reduce your risk of dying in the next 10 years by 90% compared to the average American. So one of those is to do 30 minutes of physical activity. That's just walking, 30 minutes of walking a day extra. A second is to avoid the 5 food felons. Now that one people say is a little more difficult, but it is avoiding saturated fat, which is 4-legged animal fat plus palm and coconut oil, avoiding trans fat, avoiding simple sugars, that's adding simple sugars or adding syrups, or any grain that isn't 100% whole grain. So just doing those things, and you can substitute some things such as walnuts, which we'll get to in a few minutes. Nuts are a healthy thing. A third thing is avoiding toxins like tobacco and tobacco smoke. A fourth thing is learning how to manage stress. So there are easy ways of managing stress, meditating, if you will, focusing on your breathing as you take a breath in and out by putting your hand on your belly button and thinking about your hand moving. Things like that, because an event isn't stressful and aging you by itself, it's your reaction to it. So if you manage your reaction to it, you don't have that stress. And the fifth thing is to know 5 numbers and to normalize them. So the most important number is your blood pressure. It should be 115/75. Know your blood sugar, your hemoglobin A1C, and get that normal too. Third thing is know your LDL cholesterol and your HDL. So you want your LDL under 100. Fourth thing is your waist for height. You want your waist measured at your belly button with you sucking in. You're going to anyway. So suck in, and you want your waist to be half of your height or less. And the fifth thing is to get your immunizations up to date. So doing those 5 things, and if you will, the big 5, if you will, which we said was the exercise, avoiding the 5 food felons, managing your stress, if you will, knowing your 5 normals, if you will, and avoiding tobacco and, if you will, tobacco products, just doing those 5 things, 90% reduction in your risk of disease in the next 10 years. Tremendous. One of the new things we put in the book was more information about the odd omegas, because there's so much great new information. So some of the new information relates to nuts. Just an ounce of nuts, that is 6 walnut halves in the morning and evening. An ounce of nuts decreased the risk of all inflammatory diseases. So it decreased the risk of heart disease, stroke, memory loss, kidney disease, decreased the risk of cancer, even decreased the risk of respiratory inflammation by, in fact, about 20% in one study. 30% decrease in heart attacks in the large diet study by just adding some nuts or olive oil. So olive oil is another odd omega. So I like the odd omegas. Odd is the odd numbers, 3, 5, 7, 9. So you want the odd omegas. You know of omega-3 as the fish oils, and DHA is the component of fish oil that's beneficial for your brain and your eyes. Well, omega-3 in walnuts are really the only nut with it, seem to be beneficial for a separate benefit for your heart than the fish oils. So that's another odd omega-3. And omega-7, we have a lot in there because no one ever knew about omega-7. I told you about omega-9 is olive oil. It's the best of the cooking or sauteing oils. Omega-7, which you can get from macadamia nuts or anchovies or purified in pill form, that actually decreases inflammatory diseases as well. So there's a lot of new information in the book, but something just so simple as having an ounce of nuts a day is really beneficial. In fact, all of the nuts seem to have a benefit. So, and even peanuts, which are really a legume, seem to have a benefit in one of the studies. But walnuts have what we call the most of the gold studies. That is, they're randomized controlled studies where they gave extra walnuts without giving if you will, the other things. And what happened is just those people who had the walnuts had the great decrease in inflammatory disease. So, by the way, did having a little extra olive oil. So all of these things seem to have extra benefits for you. And so walnuts are my favorite, and Dr. Oz and I differ in how we like our walnuts. He soaks his for about an hour and then dries them and has them that way. I actually like to toast mine. So I take the walnuts and I put them in a toaster oven for about 9 to 12 minutes at 275 degrees. It gets a really nice woody flavor, and I like that woody flavor better. The book should be available on all of the usual sites. Amazon.com is one of the easy places to get it, and it's in paperback, so it's more affordable. Now, for all the recipes and a whole bunch of recipes where we made over holiday recipes so you can practice for next year if you want and get ready for it, or anything you want to do, and some wonderful walnut blueberry oatmeal cookies. They're energy bites, if you will. You can go to walnuts.org for those recipe makeovers.